Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Bob Shipley and Bryan Erwin. It's time for lunch with the coach, the two coaches. Coach Shipley, a longtime high school coach, a college coach as well. Bryan Erwin also has a couple state championships under his belt, as well as some time in the college ranks as well. Well known to our viewers here of On Texas Football. And I love this segment and episode each and every week because I get to kind of tap into what the coach's brain is thinking a little bit. And appreciate you guys joining me. This episode brought to you by our friend Laura Baker over at Keller Williams Realty there in Austin. All right, Bob and Bryan, I'm going to actually start off not with a Texas-specific question, but an Oklahoma-specific question. And I know that's kind of odd, but, man, what were they doing on Saturday? It felt like they had no clue how to play offensive football. You know, and I know Texas defense is good, but my goodness, that wasn't necessarily as bad as 2 years ago. But two of the last three times these two teams have played, OU has scored just a total of 3 points. I mean, is Dylan Gabriel that big a deal? I mean, what happened here with this game?
It seemed like to me that they just abandoned what they had been doing, which hadn't been great, but it was better than, what they showed. Of course, a lot of that has to do with our defense, which is obviously giving up 3 touchdowns in 6 games. That's amazing. You go back and look historically, where does this defense, it's a totally different offense. So totally different offensive football strategies today. So much harder to hold people down in points. But back to Oklahoma, it just seems like I thought maybe we might see a quarterback change. I thought maybe, you're sprinting out and, if you're and sprinting out's fine, but if you're at midfield and you're sprinting out, and it's not a half roll, it's a sprint, and you certainly reduce the field that you can attack when you do that. And it was just strange. And I said on several podcasts last week, we knew that we weren't just going to see the same stuff. We knew they had stuff in their hip pockets. We knew they were going to give us different looks. I think that was probably some of the woes we had offensively in the first quarter. We were seeing things defensively we had not seen. And you just have to make adjustments on the run and go. Plus, Quinn, had the game that he had, and we can talk about that later if you want. But offensively, I felt like defensively they were giving us some looks that we hadn't seen, doing some things we hadn't seen. But once we kind of got in the rhythm of things and the game started kind of going our way, defense played incredible once again, in my opinion. But I just think they were more desperate than I thought they'd be. I didn't think they were in a desperate mode, but they are. It's desperation time for sure right now in Norman, Oklahoma.
What do you think, Bryan? What did you see from the Sooners offense in particular that just kind of – because I still am scratching my head. I mean, it's 2-3 days later here, and I'm still scratching my head about what I saw.
I just think it goes back to what we saw going into the game, that we said it last week. We're the most talented team. We're way more talented than they are right now. Oklahoma, from an offensive standpoint, you think about the Baker Mayfield years, you think about the Kyler Murray years. The first thing that comes to my mind is those offensive linemen. They had freaks up front. Those guys look immature. They look like our offensive linemen used to look, 7, 8, 10 years ago. Just immature, not big-time college football players. I didn't think they had a back like they've had in the last 2 decades. They had 5 receivers out. That has to hurt them. They're just not that talented a receiver. They're the tight end's a solid player, true freshman at quarterback. That's a recipe kind of for disaster. If you're going into the SEC, you're playing in the Red River rivalry. They're just not that talented. I think it starts up front with the offensive line. I thought their quarterback battled hard. Early in the game, he moved the chains. I mean, he caused us some problems early in the game, and he's so athletic. He made a couple first down throws. He had 2 or 3 first down runs. He's going to be a good player, but they just don't have the offensive line. They don't have the backs. They don't have the receivers right now to be Oklahoma.
To Bob's point, it felt desperate though, right? I mean, I agree. I mean, that's what it felt like coming out of that game. And that is so rare for anybody to feel desperate in that game because, it's a rivalry game. I mean, everything's supposed to be left out there on the field. And I don't know. It didn't feel right. Something about it. Maybe it was just a complete and utter butt whipping because the Texas defense was.
Well, it was. And thank God. I mean, it couldn't have started any better for them. It couldn't have gone any better for them over the first quarter and a few minutes. It absolutely couldn't have gone any better. And so, credit to them. They came out playing hard. They did. They came out playing hard. They were playing better than we were the first quarter. There's no doubt about it. I thought. And so, you know how this thing works. I mean, we beat them 49-0, then we can't tackle Dylan Gabriel the next year. So they're a year away from getting something like that in there. But we just got to be happy with what we've got. We played hard. I think the focus needs to be on Texas and what our guys did and how hard our guys played. OU's what they are, and I'm glad we're not them.
In more ways than one. All right, so let's go on and move on to Texas now. I like how you put that, Bryan. Quinn Ewers up and down game at best, but coming back off of a month hiatus from an injury that he suffered against UTSA. Did not have a great first quarter at all. Did not have a great game overall, but he did tone down the interceptions, didn't turn the ball over after that first series. They get out of there with a 34-3 win, convincing one. What did y'all think of Quinn's performance, and what do you think it means going forward? Bryan, you want to start on this?
Yeah, we could get pretty deep on this, and I really don't think we want to. I don't, but very, very disappointed. He doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. He's antsy. He's escaping from the pocket when he doesn't need to. The pocket is clean. His feet get antsy. The ball starts dropping. Steps up in the pocket, overthrows a ball that's wide open. Couple plays later, if he steps into it, puts some air under it, it's 6 points to Isaiah Bond. He's escaping out over the top to the right, out over the top to the left when he doesn't need to. The pocket's clean. Nothing there tells him to gap escape. It tells him just step up, make a throw. So that's where he's getting in trouble. The one where he escaped out over the top to the right and hit Moore for the first down of the game, that was a good play, but he shouldn't even been escaping that direction. Nothing told him to panic and escape out of the top. And that's when bad things happen. When quarterbacks start moving the wrong direction based on their gap escapes, that's when you make a bad play worse. And so he's got to clean that up. I'm going to tell you, I guarantee you he's getting his butt coached off this week. I'm talking about hard. He's got to do better than that. He's got to have more poise in the pocket than what he showed us the other day. The screen throw down inside the 10-yard line to Gunnar Helm, great play, but there's a gazillion quarterbacks in the world can make that throw for a touchdown. So that was one positive play. And then he comes back and we hit the quick slant to Wingo. That was the big play. Great throw, but it's a 3-yard slant route. And Wingo, oh my gosh, that guy is something. So, but in the drop back game, that's where Quinn has his trouble is with his feet, with his pocket presence, and with his gap escapes and turning a clean pocket into a dirty pocket. And so that's what he's got to get cleaned up. I got a feeling he's probably getting his rear end coached off this week.
Bob, I got to ask you about this. Is it because the month off? Because he was doing a little bit better, we thought, against Michigan in particular. We saw him step up and hit Gunnar Helm over the middle. We saw him really do some nice things in and around the pocket and move it. Is it that? Is it nerves? Going into a big rivalry game where maybe he's seeing ghosts at times, especially after that first interception. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a lot. 2 games and an open week, that's a lot of time. But I think Bryan makes great points about Quinn's lack of fundamentals, I guess you might say, that he's really been pretty good at, which tells me, it's Bryan, you know this, you've seen it a million times. A guy can say, yeah, I feel okay. I'm good. I can throw them. But you get in a game and your adrenaline starts pumping and you're asking your body to do things you don't do in practice. You just don't. There's 75,000 screaming fans. And I think it was either hurting him or he was very, very cognizant of trying to protect it. He didn't want to get hit, to me. And so I think that's probably why he was not stable in the pocket and stayed in there. And, and so he's thinking about protecting himself. So what happens, your mechanics and the things you worked on so much, he's probably been practicing 2.5 weeks, without anybody being close to hitting him. And now that there's a danger of somebody hitting him, he was sure protecting himself. Worst game he's played in 2 years, in my opinion. But I would like to think it has more to do with either he's still hurting or he's afraid to cut loose. And it's going. I thought at times he might not make it through the game. And I don't think. But that's the last thing Sark wants is people start calling for a quarterback controversy.
Yeah.
Especially if he wasn't healthy and he had to pull him, and Manning goes in and does Manning things. Then you've got a locker room that can split real quick.
Yeah,
you don't want that.
I hear what y'all are saying. I think both y'all are on to something, and I almost wonder, and I get y'all's think that last touchdown Texas scored, where he made Quinn run the ball on the goal line.
That's true.
That was a little. Hey, you need to get a little dirty here. Your pants are going to get dirty just like everybody else's in this thing.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I think Sark may have recognized that, and that may have been why he changed the offense up a little bit in that second quarter, and started doing a little bit of what Bryan was talking about, where giving him a little bit different kind of look that he felt more confident and more at ease in. And so we'll see. To y'all's point, is this a one-time thing? Because I agree with Bob and I agree with Bryan. This was probably his worst game in 2 years. Probably his worst game since when? TCU 2 years ago?
Or Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, yeah. I mean, but, he's coming back from injury. He's getting his, faculties. Let's see what happens. Because I think that, to y'all's point, it's a point of concern, especially if he does it against Georgia. If he does against A&M, he does against a Kentucky, one of those teams that can really get after you a little bit. He starts taking that kind of tact, and it could hurt the Longhorns long term. All right. Speaking of hurting people, Bryan, you wanted to bring up a play that not many people are talking about that you think really helped spark momentum in favor of the Longhorns prior to even Silas Bolden jumping on a ball, the DeAndre Moore run and catch, all that stuff. You want to talk about that? Before we do that and get to that play, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. That is Laura Baker over at Keller Williams Realty. You can reach out to her at 512-784-0505 or at laura@andyallenteam.com. She is your Austin real estate expert. If you're moving to, from, or within the Austin metro area, anywhere up from Georgetown all the way South Austin, wherever you need to be in the city of Austin or want to be, Laura knows it like the back of her hand. She's a lifelong Austinite. Happy that she's a sponsor of Lunch with the Coach. She enjoys listening to the coaches herself, she says, all the time, her and her husband, Mike. All right, hey, guys, Bryan, describe that play I was talking about, because I knew when you brought it up in our pre-production meeting, and I thought, you know what, he's on to something a little bit there. So describe what play you're talking about.
Well, during the game, I saw it, and I'm like, wow. As when Lefau struck the running back. There was about 6 minutes, 30 seconds to go in the second quarter. They run a power read type of play where there's running two-back stretch outside to the right. The quarterback, he's reading the defensive end. Trey Moore crashed. And And when Trey Moore crashed, then Lefau just gap replaced outside. And when he handed it to the back, because the Trey Moore stayed closed down to take away the quarterback keeper, Lefau stepped up, and I haven't seen a hit like that, just man-to-man, mano-a-mano, in a long time. I mean, he struck that back. You know, you're talking about checking his oil. He got his oil checked on that play. And I thought it was such a devastating hit. It wasn't a defenseless player type of hit, blindside type of hit. It was, there you are, here I am, and Lefau just undressed him. And so last night when I rewatched the game and I saw it again, I'm like, wow, man, that was – and then from that point on, the game was over. So last week I talked a lot about momentum. I just think it's such a huge momentum game, especially rivalry games. And, you know, they got momentum, we get momentum, they get momentum, we got momentum, they got momentum. And that happened a lot in the first quarter. Back and forth, back and forth. And then all of a sudden, when that play happened, and after I rewatched it again last night, Big Mo was no more. We took it right there on that play, and the game was virtually over. Shortly after that, we get the great punt catch, in my opinion, by Silas Bolden, going and tracking it down like a hound dog, and made a great play and caught the ball and got a few yards. But the courage he showed to go track that thing down, then boom, we move it down the field. And then a few plays later, Wisner busts it, and then Silas does what he does and goes and gets the ball in the end zone. And then the avalanche was on it. We talked about the emotional avalanche last week, you know, of momentum. Herb Street kept talking about avalanche. Man, the avalanche. It's OU's getting covered up now in the avalanche. We're suffocating them. So I thought that play with 6 minutes and 30 seconds or so left to go in the second quarter was when momentum got wrestled away and we buried the stake. And what I like to pose to you guys is, how many times in a big-time rivalry game do you take momentum and keep it with 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the second quarter? It doesn't happen. We suffocated them. We beat their butt right there, and the game was over.
I agree with you. I've been to a lot of Texas OU games. I mean, the 49-0 one I thought was an aberration because they literally had no quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, you know, this was year 3 of Brent Venables. This wasn't a first-year head coach that got, you know, given a raw deal because Lincoln Riley hit the exits. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what I was trying to get at the very start of this. Bob, you remember that hit from Lefau because you commented on it too. The thing that was interesting about it, it was just 7-3 when that happened. Yeah. Texas had they scored one touchdown. Bryan described it to throw back the helm, but then Texas went 3-and-out on its next possession. So OU was still very much in the game, and then Lefau makes the hit. Bolden gets that, gets the punt return and keeps it from going an extra 10 yards, maybe pinning Texas within its own 10. Texas moves the ball down fairly easy. Then Bolden jumps on the fumble, and it's 14-3. And then the very next play from scrimmage is a fumble from or not next play, but one of the next 2 or 3 plays is a fumble from Michael Hawkins, and Katie barred the door. Bob, did you get that same feeling like this game was just a little bit of momentum back and forth? I almost felt like Texas, and correct me if I'm wrong, felt like Texas played very cautiously on offense the first quarter. Maybe because you had something, but describe what you saw there.
Well, I think we've already talked about Quinn and probably what was going through his mind. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but OU still came out and did some things defensively there at the first that hadn't seen a lot. And I think that probably just compounded what Quinn was thinking and going through. And so now he's confused because he's not seeing what he's been seeing on film. He's not seeing what he saw all week. And he's probably not wanting to get hit. So, I just felt like, as we said earlier, everything at the first went – it played out perfectly for them. It was exactly what needed to happen for them. Us to turn. That's one of the things Venables talked about before the game. Turnovers could decide the game, and to a certain degree they did. thankfully we were on the receiving end, and of course sacks and the pressure that our defense put on them. But I think Bryan is right, man. Once Lefau laid that on, the defense started playing with so much confidence. I mean, I think they knew then that
they had a plan for success. It was like they're okay. That play had probably been run in practice, and Lefau was told to go do this. He did exactly that, and it gives them confidence in what they've been coached all week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a dog's ears perked up.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I need to be aware of this. They're right. We need to just keep going. All right, hey, Bob, talking about defense, and Bryan, I want to come back to what you said a little bit later about momentum never being given up, because I agree with you. By the way, 100%. Texas never gave up momentum after that at all. But Bob, you said the Texas D right now is proving to you that they're an excellent unit, not just a good unit. I mean, 3 touchdowns in 6 games. What are y'all seeing, or what are you seeing in particular as a coach that makes you feel like, hey, this unit right now is playing really, really well?
Well, we've got some great players, of course, although I don't know, probably overall it was as talented as 05 defense. But I think it's the culture that they built. And all those guys are playing well together. They're playing as a team, and I think, bringing Johnny Nansen in, we've talked a lot about how we hope that he would help evolve the defense into something even more aggressive, more unpredictable. And I think that's exactly what he's done. And we've got a lot of great players on that defense, a lot of players that'll be in the NFL. But overall, as a team, I don't know. I go back to my days back in the 80s, out 83 or so. I mean, that team gave up 8 or 9 points a game. But that's a whole different offense back then. Offense has become so much more sophisticated and advanced that that even makes 3 touchdowns in 6 games just unheard of. Yeah. Unheard of in today's college FBS football, that you could hold 6 teams, one of them being the reigning national champion, the other one your biggest rival, or one of your 2 biggest rivals. It's just what a great tribute to the coaching staff. But to me, it's part of that culture. Just like Silas Bolden, I kind of think Silas, he was about 15 yards behind Wisner. I kind of think he was trying to get his butt down there to celebrate. I think that's what he was wanting to do.
He wanted to be on national TV with the celebration.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Get your butt to the football. Get your butt to the football. And that's just a play that they'll show over and over, and they'll show Whittington's play over and over, and it's just – so now you're seeing it come down to the next generation. You're seeing that culture continue to waterfall, grow roots down into the system and into the players, and it's so dang exciting to watch. You'll see more and more stuff like that, I think, just because that's the expectation. Sark has set the level, and this is where we have to be at. And if you're not hustling your butt to the ball, offense or defense, then the question is simply, why not? Get your butt out of the game.
Yeah, or if you're a running back and you're not wanting to block, or what, there's a standard, and Sark may set standards, but the players have to live up to it and go do it. Sure. And that was what's interesting. You can try to set a standard all you want if you're a coach, but if the players don't respond, that's not necessarily the culture you want. Bryan, what did you think of the defense? Because you talked a little bit about it earlier. What are you seeing with the Texas D right now?
What I said earlier was, and this is not a deal or who's better, offense or defense. It's really not. But I wrote down it's a changing of the guard. Our defense is the strength of the football team right now. There's no way I would have predicted that going into this season. But I truly believe that our defense is the strength of the team at this point. So that will affect, I think, how Sark can make decisions in big ball games, knowing how good our defense is. Hey, punt the ball, or we can go for it, and that all depends on down and distance. It depends on field position, things like that. But it can big time affect your strategy within a game. And sometimes punt is going to be a fantastic play because of our defense. I love the way we're playing physical. We're playing fast. We tackle with authority. We're getting pressure on the quarterback before. Just the physicality and the team speed that we're playing with, we look like a true SEC football team, and we're fast, we're physical, guys are competing, we're deep. You turn around and number 25 is making a play. You turn around, Janae Barron's making a play. You turn around and Lefau's making a play. We know Anthony Hill's a freak. 11 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, a fumble.
Yeah, and by the way, you need to run right at number 0 to beat Texas.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the defense, simply put, is the strength of the team right now. And I would coach this team towards that, as they are the strength of the team. I think we're going to be able to rely on them. Now, with one caveat, it broke my heart to hear about Derek Williams. Derek Williams, I'm a huge fan of his. He is big time. And that tackle, that fumble he caused, guys, his shoulder pads were about 8 inches off the ground when he made that tackle and hit the ball, and the ball comes out. He is so good.
And the ball carrier did everything right.
Yes.
He had both hands on the ball. I mean, he had good ball security.
Yeah.
That was all Thompson.
Yeah. And then just to piggyback on what Bob said a while ago about the culture, just in general, I think he's so right, because you think about Silas Bolden. We go and sign a kid from Oregon State. He's 5'8", 160 pounds. When we can go sign this guy or this guy or this guy or this guy, but that's a culture decision. What a great decision to go get that guy, and because he fits the culture. That's big time. That, guys, that's to our fans and to everybody. That's so huge that Sark and his staff can go find the inches to win a football game. Because if we don't recover that fumble, it's still 7-3. There's a good chance it's gonna be 7-3 at the half. Now we're really puckered up. Now we're really not in a good mood. I wasn't in a good mood prior to that, but I was really not in a good mood. So just the recruiting, the transfer portal stuff, the culture stuff, those are the inches it takes to win championships.
I find it interesting also because this, Bryan, and this is going to be our last discussion topic for lunch with the coach here for the day. Bryan, 2 years ago, you and I did a lunch with the coach, very first one of the year. And you said, I want to take this one and I want to talk about Texas being a championship team. And I'm going to compare every single thing that Texas does or will do to what Georgia does, because they're the defending national champions. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 15 months.
Yeah.
And now Texas ranked number 1 with Georgia coming to town.
Yeah.
How big is that? What has happened over the last 15 months? I mean, you almost want to pinch yourself a little bit. Is this real? Is this real? Is this real?
Yeah.
Just culture for you guys, or what do you think that's been the worm turning? I mean, is it Sark getting better foothold and more the offensive line growing up, maybe more talent in the system? All of those things. Is there been any singular thing that y'all can think of, or just a cumulative effect, so to speak?
I think it's a cumulative effect. It's the sum of the parts equal the whole. Yeah, offensive line. Yeah, defensive line. What about linebacker? Remember what we were playing with a couple of years ago? I mean, we're elite at inside linebacker now, and at the safety position now compared to where we were a couple of years ago. The corner position. I mean, you go up and down the road. I think it's. I'm not going to say talent acquisition first. I'm going to say culture, because that's the hardest thing to do and to preach and to sell and have guys buy in, and then have the courage as a coach to go recruit that guy and those guys, both in the high school and in the portal, to have the courage to stick to your guns and recruit that type of player, that Silas Bolden type of player. Bobby, you know how big a fan I was of Jordan Whittington, the same type of guy. And so that and talent acquisition. I mean, I think those two things we've stacked class after class after class, and now hopefully one more class, and we just keep stacking these classes with high character, very, very talented, fast, strong, big guys that have us poised to be able to play in the SEC at a championship level. So yeah, we're kind of pinching ourselves, but it's the maturation of what Sark's done from day one, and we've seen it coming. He's built it the right way. Culture's immaculate. The talent level is immaculate. I bet that little bulldog don't come out in front of Bebo this week either. So
they got a new UGA, by the way. The other one said no mas. Actually, yeah, okay, yeah. I think that's great, Bryan. That's right. What I was thinking. The talent acquisition, the recruiting of the right type of kids that fit the program expectations is huge. And I like the word Bryan said, courage, because you may have a cat over here that everybody in the country's at, but deep down in your heart of hearts, you know he doesn't fit the culture.
Yeah.
But he's too good. It's hard to pass him up.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to do that. And like Bryan said, that takes courage to let a guy go.
Yeah.
When you know have just a gut instinct. And it may be the players. The players get to know these guys on the recruiting trips. And then the coaches, we would always have a debrief with our host after the recruits left and say, okay, what do we need to know? Is he fit? Is he not a fit? What did he say? Just what kind of kid is he or away from us? Debrief them all. And then what a great job in the portal. You remember we were like crying, oh boy, we're missing on all these defensive linemen. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? It all worked out. It all worked out. But Sark came in. Another thing Bryan touched on, and I'm sorry, but he had it nailed, is the blueprint that Sark had when he came in. He learned from the best, two of the best that have ever done it, and Pete Carroll and Pete Saban. He had a blueprint, and he never varied from that blueprint, and it's just, I'm like you. I just wonder what would have happened if they would have pulled the trigger on somebody else. I just can't imagine anybody coming in doing a better job than Sark has done.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys, and that's what I was wondering. I mean, because 15 months ago, we were like, hey, they're coming off 8-5, baby. Let's see if they can get to 10, right? Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the thought process, and they've exceeded that. And I think it's been the other thing that I would say, it's not been this. The one thing I wondered about this is it hasn't been a one-hit wonder. I always talk about that, right? You want to sustain success. You don't want to win.
A la TCU.
TCU is a perfect example. Go to the national championship game, and the very next year, you 6-6, 5-7, whatever you were. I mean, and now you're just another team in college football, right? Yeah. You want to be able to. That's the goal of Texas.
You remember right? Then, Bobby, we had these conversations, because it was Sark's first year. I may have this a little bit wrong, but Sark's first year, Dykes' first year, Brian Kelly's first year, and we're comparing those apples and oranges, and we're like, man, maybe we should have hired Brian. Maybe, why didn't we go get Dykes? And remember we talked about this a lot, that one situation doesn't equal the other situation. Texas was not poised to be a TCU Cinderella team the way it was when Dykes came in. They had acquired a bunch of talent. And they were in good shape. LSU had a lot of talent in place. They were a year and a half removed from a national championship. So what he inherited was a really, really mediocre situation at a very elite place. And so he knew that. and we see what he's done. So, but we fought. I know you and I fought for him back then because you can't compare him to another coach's situation at TCU or LSU or USC. What Lincoln Riley did, USC his first year, things like that, and so you just can't compare it because every situation is different. And what Sark's done with his hand has been fantastic. I mean, as a coach, as an alumni, all that stuff, I love the talent. I love that we're winning, but man, I love to see the Jordan Whittington make the play he made last year. I love to see the Silas Bolden make the play he made the other day. Man, that's just, I mean, the effort our guys are playing with is what's so fun to watch.
Yeah. I think they've become a team and a program over the last 3 years to both y'all's point. All right, that's going to do it for Lunch with the Coach. Thanks again to our friend Laura Baker, realtor at for the Andy Allen team over at Keller Williams. Give her a call, 512-784-0505. Laura at andyallenteam.com. She is the Austin real estate expert, has helped so many people find their new homes, sell their home. Also just a good all-around person and a very proud Longhorn as well. For Bryan, Erwin, and Bob Shipley, as well as Laura Baker and our producer, Matt Hutchison, this has been your episode of On Texas Football, Lunch with the Coach. I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good one. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.